Well, folks, welcome back. We've got a great set of guests today. If you're like me, you don't understand fully the tax code because it's about 80,000 pages, and every now and then government comes out with some good things, and we don't realize it. And unfortunately, sometimes even our CPAs don't realize it. We're going to talk about something called an ERC. And you may not be familiar with that term. You may be familiar with the term the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program. But the ERC is something I think is even better, and it's so overlooked, it's amazing. We've got Mark Sullivan and Josh Z joining us to talk about it. Guys, welcome in.
Hey, welcome, Coach Pete.
Now, let's go to you. Let's start with, well, I don't know who wants to go first, but whoever wants to jump in and go first, tell me what this is, and let's get into the benefits of everyone listening who's a business owner.
Go ahead, Josh. Oh, well, I'll really talk about what it started and our quick backgrounds is we're entrepreneurs. You know, I'm a commercial real estate investor, not a tax guy, you know, and through the pandemic, you know, with the PPP and EIDL, I have a couple other businesses and one was really suffering. And someone told me, hey, President Biden amended this ERC, Employee Retention Credit, back in March of 21. So this is a month later. Here's another opportunity so you could, you know, help out your business as far as another stimulus package and COVID relief fund. Oh, okay, I'll take a look at it. So coming that it's from the Treasury Department, I was thinking I had to talk to my CPA or my tax professional. Well, come to find out, it's just a little too overwhelming for them, and it's not on their radar because it's more of a payroll credit. And you know, when I struck out with 5 or 6 different people. I said, hey, here's an opportunity, you know, and I took the initiative of kind of like the book, Who Not How, and got the right who's around me. You know, Mark's one of my partners, and we just continued to build it. And, you know, now we're helping, you know, hundreds of thousands of companies. So,
okay, but what is it? What's an ERC?
Mark.
The easiest way to look at what ERC is, it is a refund to the business owner on W-2 wages that have been paid out during the pandemic.
Okay.
And more specifically, 3 quarters in 2020 and 3 quarters in 2021.
So 3 and 3.
So, yeah. So is it like PPP where it needs to be forgiven? No, it's not a loan. It doesn't need to be forgiven. It is one of the best credits out there with tax law. You talked about 80,000 pages. Well, they've added several hundred pages with this ERC. So what we've done with the company is we've gone out, even though we didn't have decades of experience with payroll, we've gone out and hired experts. Our fulfillment director is on the board of the American Payroll Association. We have multiple attorneys looking at this, many CPAs and CPPs, to basically provide a service to business owners and a way to be able to have them come in, get themselves qualified easily or not, and then we'll actually file the credit for them. And then it's a waiting game with the IRS. Several months later, they'll get a check back from the Federal Reserve.
When the IRS is after you, there's no waiting game. When the IRS is when you're trying to get help from the IRS, it's a big waiting game. So it's pretty funny. When they're chasing you, it's tomorrow. Now, let's talk about that. So if someone's done a PPP, can they also qualify for the ERC? It sounds like we're doing alphabet soup here, but can they qualify for the ERC even though they did the PPP?
Yeah, that's actually why most people don't know about this program, because when it came into legislation with the CARES Act, you could not do both. So there's a lot of misinformation where people think you cannot, or you can only qualify if you've had a business loss, a revenue reduction. But this has been amended as recently as, well, you know, December 2021. So just a few months ago from the date of this radio show. So yes, you can do both. And we're talking about big money here. A lot of times we're getting a credit amount to the company that's bigger than what they received with PPP. So it's big money.
And it doesn't create a tax situation, you said, because it's not going to be a forgivable loan, basically. That's what the PPP was. So a lot of people still had to pay income tax state-wise on that, right? So, all right.
Yeah, they'll get you a little bit on this. You don't count it as income, but you do need to reduce your payroll expenses. But at the end of the day, it's great money to the business owner that they can use for practically anything.
So if a business owner has still made money during 2020 and 2021, they still may qualify for the ERC. That's pretty good, because a lot of people were thinking, I know a lot of CPAs were thinking, if you didn't lose money, you didn't qualify. Especially with PPP2, when that came out, you had to lose money, and then the ERC, I think that's been looped in with the same kind of, in the same bucket, I think, and a lot of it's been overlooked. Because I just heard about it from talking to somebody who knew you guys and said, you got to talk to these guys about the ERC. And folks, by the way, if you're watching or listening, you go to ERCaction.com ERCaction.com to find out more and to put your own information in if you're a business owner to see how much you would qualify for. ERC Action, ACTION. Now, guys, what have you seen? What are some of the main advantages of the ERC besides being overlooked, I guess? What are some of the things you've seen that people have said, gosh, I wish somebody would have told me about this?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is, the part of this credit is it's up to $26,000 per W-2 employee. Wow. 26,000. 10 employees, you do the math. But like what you talked about is a lot of CPAs overlooked a lot of these, a lot of this part of this credit is because it has been amended a few different times. And we had people say, hey, oh, yeah, my CPA or my tax professional looked at this in the middle of summer. I didn't qualify. Well, that might have been true at that time. But since then, they added another amendment. If you've had a supply chain disruption to your business, that could, help you receive this credit. And so I tell everybody, do not pre-qualify yourself. Forbes just did an article. It says 70 to 80% of businesses should be able to qualify for something like this.
That's amazing. I know we have a lot of business owners that are watching or listening and saying, gosh, I've never heard about this. And, we all have, as business owners, we all have CPAs. We have a busy life, and so we want the CPAs to handle the tax code for us. And I know the CPAs get overwhelmed with the number of people wanting help, and sometimes they overlook things, or maybe they heard the ERC before the December 2021 changes. And so that's why we always say the tax code is a living and breathing entity, and it's constantly changing, sometimes for the better. And I was amazed because I think this is one of the best things I've seen the IRS is giving anybody who's owned a business. And again, to find out more, all you have to go to ERCaction.com, put your information in and see if you qualify or not.
And I think that's what kind of differentiates us. So one thing I always tell people is don't get mad at your CPA or tax professional. And like if you're going through a divorce, you don't call a real estate attorney, you call a divorce attorney. Right. Your CPA specializes in your income in 1040 and 1120s. We specialize in this area. We have CPAs and payroll professionals sending us business because it's pretty hard to understand. But don't pre-qualify yourself. And the part of our system is it literally takes you 5 or 10 minutes on ERCaction.com to go through the questions and to see, what range you're qualified for. At that point, you're uploading a couple documents, and then it takes us about a week or two to get back to you on the exact amount you're approved for your business. It's
amazing. I went through it. I was amazed to find out how much I could get back for myself, even though I made money in 20 and 2021. So, because our supply chain has been interrupted, the number of people that we could see reduced because of COVID. They weren't coming into, or they couldn't or didn't want to come into our office, and then a lot of people didn't show up to their Zoom calls and things like that. So but it's still been amazing to find out that there's something that's so beneficial to most or a lot of business owners out there, and no one's talking about it. I mean, I have not seen one story in the media about it. Have you guys seen? I mean, I haven't. Maybe you guys have. Well, you said Forbes is talking about it a little bit now, but not before then. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, the biggest reason for that, if you can kind of posture this with PPP, because there's a lot of overlap. First, both of those programs, PPP and this ERC, are COVID relief funds. ERC is the last remaining of the COVID relief funds out there. Okay, so when it first came out, again, you couldn't do both, but who was benefiting on the back end? Basically, who was disseminating that information to business owners? Lenders. Lenders were making 1% to 5% on the back end of all the PPP loans. With this program, it's not going through lenders. It's directly with the IRS. So you would think, well, lenders aren't in there. You would think accountants would help you with this. But as Josh mentioned, this is payroll tax. And accountants don't do payroll. They do yearly taxes. They don't deal with where this credit lies on a 941 form. They don't deal with that form. Who does that with the business owner? Well, typically software programs like QuickBooks or ADP or Gusto. And so software programs aren't designed to calculate this credit because it's a busy work calculation if you want to look at it that way. And so there was no infrastructure, hence the need for our business to be able to have good people like you to talk to business owners and let them know about what this credit is. It is getting a little bit more noticeable out there in the business world. But again, like I mentioned, it's only been opened up recently, less than 12 months ago, and really opened up even less than 3 or 4 months ago. And so it is basically a new credit, if you want to look at it that way.
So the most important thing, I think, is that people do it the right way and don't get bogged down in the details. And that's what you guys can handle is help people streamline the process, sort of like being that guide boat through a canal, making sure people navigate the rough and unsteady water is the right way to make sure they get their entitled money. Because I think a lot of mistakes can be made from finding out about it to filing for it, can it?
Yeah, with every amendment and change to this program, it's affected how you should be able to file. I mean, just the logistics of it. So we see very, very, very often where we will actually run through a second time with someone's ERC credit if they actually have filed for it. And we're getting on average, 8 to, sometimes 1 to 2 times the amount of the credit back. So it is a complicated credit. They've made it complicated, the IRS code on this. And so you do need to follow the rules and guides to make sure that you're not getting in trouble on the back end as well.
When you said IRS and complicated, I laughed because they never make anything complicated.
Yeah.
All right, so we got about a minute or so left. What would you tell folks who are, let's say we got a business owner who's got 10 employees and he or she was able to survive through COVID. They may or may not have got a PPP loan, probably did. And now they're debating on whether to going to ercaction.com and finding out about it. What would you tell them?
I would tell them first is, what is the cost of this? They're probably wondering, okay, how much are you guys going to charge me? Well, the one thing we saw as a bottleneck is, like you said, if the IRS is coming after you for money, they're going to be knocking on the door in a day. This actually takes 6 to 8 months to receive the money. We decided we are not going to charge anything up front. We're literally going to walk them through the whole process, do the whole filing, and hold their hand until they actually receive the money. Once they receive it, our fee is 15%, whatever that credit is, when they get the money. So that was one thing we also said as far as getting this off the ground is people don't want to sit there and wait for 6 to 8 months after they paid for something for that long. So it literally will take 8 to 10 minutes to go through the questions on ercaction.com. And at that point, in a week or two, we're telling you how much you're approved for. Then we're sending out the IRS. 6 to 8 months later, you're receiving a check.
So no upfront fees, and then when and if they get the benefit, you get 15% of it. That's a pretty good deal as a business owner to get 85% of money you never would have got to begin with.
Correct.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Folks, I'd encourage you to go to ercaction.com, find out what it would mean for you. And I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Take care.
it.